One cannot think of the Australian GP and not think of everyone's favourite Aussie Daniel Ricciardo. The Honey Badger is a fan favourite, with many fans super disappointed when he announced he wouldn't be returning to the track in 2023. Well, it looks like the fans may not have to wait long, as it may be sooner rather than later that we see the charismatic Australian return to the grid, especially after his and Haas's most recent announcements. Now, there is no other way to put it but that Daniel struggled in 2022. He just couldn't quite get the McLaren to work for him, with many feeling that the quirks of the car were just not suited to his style. And in the end, the McLaren relationship ended in a sour fashion, with the former McLaren driver delivering a brutally honest assessment of how McLaren worked and how his confidence was shot during his spell at the team. It became everything. Nothing was ever really adding up. There was no step 1, step 2, step 3. It was just a bit of a mess. We probably started over-analyzing things, and that takes a hit on my confidence. And I'm questioning a few things in myself, and I'm seeing everyone scratching their heads, and I'm forced to scratch my head, said Daniel. One Aussie was replaced by another, and F1 was left with a huge charismatic void. Such was the Aussies' impact on F1 that Sky Sports presenter Ted Kravitz called for the current crop of F1 drivers to step up to fill the void left by Daniel and Vettel's departure. I must say there are two notable exceptions to F1 in 2023. We do miss their presence, and I'm talking about Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel. And you know what? I felt this on Thursday when we started, and I feel it now. I just miss those guys. They were big personalities, Kravitz said on Sky in Bahrain. We are only 2 races in, but it does feel like there is a lack of something. We can't quite put our finger on it, but maybe a Daniel return won't only be good for the track, but good for the viewers as well. We can't really blame Daniel for taking his working sabbatical at Red Bull. He gets to take a year off, work with an amazing team, and learn from the very best. Plus, the $21 million payout he got from McLaren means that he doesn't really need to worry about his financial situation either. Overall, it sounds like a genius move from the Honey Badger. Plus, when you have the driving capability of Daniel, there will always be teams interested in your services. But it's not a walk in the park to just step back onto the grid. There are multiple drivers looking to race at the pinnacle of motorsport, with a certain Mick Schumacher also looking to get back onto the grid. It won't be a walk in the park for Ricciardo. It was easy to see that Daniel just struggled with the McLaren setup, with the team trying multiple setups to get it to work for their former driver. And Horner was a little bit less complimentary of McLaren, and in particular Zach Brown. We all know how much love the pair have for each other. None. Red Bull team principal Horner sat next to McLaren CEO Brown, told him, "We had to feed him up. I don't know what you guys did to him. He looked skinny. He looks healthier now. He's training hard and ready to go given a chance." The biggest question that everyone is asking is how far is Daniel from a return to F1, and if we could be seeing him anytime soon. Well, the team principal had this to say: "He's 10 minutes away from being ready. He's in good shape. He is kept fit and well. He's had a chance to reset, got into the 2023 work. He's hit the ground running, and he likes the feel of the car in the virtual world, which correlates well with what we're seeing in the actual world. He's desperate for a run in the car to validate that. He's getting back to being the Daniel we know." Before you get your hopes up though, we all know that while Daniel may be raring to go, the Australian is not exactly in a commanding position at Red Bull, with his contract as a reserve driver being mainly to support Max and the team in the simulators and provide feedback. With the recent drama in the Red Bull team, could we see the return of Daniel? Probably not, but it's an interesting thought to entertain. The main question remains though, when will we be seeing a return of the mercurial Aussie? According to Daniel, it's not too long, with the Red Bull reserve driver having this to say in a recent interview. "The signs are pointing towards getting back on the grid," Ricciardo said on Thursday. "I feel like that's currently where I'm tracking, at least in my head. I've even put myself in scenarios now where I'm like, if I got back on the grid tomorrow, what would I do differently?" If you are a Daniel fan, you are thinking, yes, please, bring him back, but the track record of drivers leaving the grid and coming back is a precarious one, with not many making the biggest success of it. The most notable two are Fernando Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen, with both drivers coming back with relative success, but let's be honest, both of these drivers are world champions, and Daniel isn't. This doesn't mean that he can't be a success, but he certainly doesn't carry the same value as Kimi or Fernando. The next question will be, where does Daniel go? Now, there are various options, and we aren't that far off the July silly season in F1. Ferrari is definitely a no-go. We just can't see Ferrari letting Charles or Carlos Sainz go. Charles wants to win with Ferrari, and as unhappy as he may be with them at the moment, he still believes they can win it. Red Bull could be an option with Sergio's contract ending at the end of 2023. There is a possibility for the Aussie to rejoin the Austrian team. But will they want to take on a former driver and upset the balance of the team? As we all know, Verstappen and Ricciardo don't exactly see eye to eye. With Hamilton aging and the car not being what he is expecting, there could be a possibility for the Aussie at the Silverstone-based team, but with the likes of Lando Norris probably being the favourite for that seat, then it doesn't really leave many options. So what about further down the grid? Well, recently Alpine's Otmar Zafnauer said, "We had discussions with Daniel and ended up with Pierre Gasly when he became available. Like Guenther says, he's a fantastic racing driver and he's still young. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back racing in the future." Speaking of old Guenther, the Drive to Survive star that everyone has grown to love and found his scene about Daniel Ricciardo in the show hilarious, choosing to select Nico Hülkenberg after axing Mick Schumacher last season, said Ricciardo wanted $10 million to race for the American team. Now, we can't use the language he used, but maybe just give it a watch on Netflix. It was rather funny. He did have some interesting things to say about Daniel during the Australian GP interview, though. Steiner was asked about Ricciardo at the F1 Australian Grand Prix and replied, "It's a little bit early to speak about arrivals changing for next year. Let's see how we do with these drivers. For sure, at some point, maybe I will speak with him, but I can't promise anything because if our two guys do a good job, that's where I stand with it. Everyone wants to speak with Daniel. He's having a year off, maybe he's closing in on what he wants to do. He will be interesting for everyone in Formula One, but it's only 2 races. I need to give them a chance." We don't quite know if we could see Daniel in the Haas car, but maybe, just maybe, he could be. I don't think it will be out of the question, as they say beggars can't be choosers. Could you see Daniel at Haas? And there is some good news for Haas, as it doesn't look like money will be a factor in Daniel's choice, which was the obvious stumbling block for the team last season. "Transparently, it wouldn't be about the money," said Ricciardo. "I've had a pretty long career in F1, and when I look back, let's say I can buy the pair of jeans that I want to buy." Alan Jones, the last Australian to win an F1 title, certainly doesn't see Daniel coming back to the grid. In relation to him ever getting back into a Formula One car, you never say never. He is a reserve driver, and you never know what might happen as far as coming out of a sabbatical is concerned, Jones said. "But I just don't know where Daniel would go, because at the end of the day, I can't see Red Bull getting rid of the 2 that they've got." Interesting words from the ex-world champion, and ones we would not like to happen. But this is not always the case with Daniel, and he could possibly be on his way to Haas. What do you think about Daniel? Will he return, and who do you think he will return with? Comment below.